has made the biggest, at least, impact on my language journey. I don't think I tried a bunch of stuff before, grammar, like other different kinds of apps, but I don't know, nothing has matched like the point you can get to with, especially because you don't even have to think like when you speak to natives. You're kind of just like, you hear it and you're able to understand things. Just continue with, don't worry about it too much. Just listen to like a little bit each day. And yeah, if you don't notice it, after some point, you'll be like, oh, okay, I can kind of understand a lot of things. And then at some point, you'll be like, oh, I can now say a lot of things. Even though, yeah, that transition between listening and speaking, it's like a bit rough. But yeah, like I don't think no one should worry about not being able to communicate if they use as their main learning source.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, what's up, Alvaro? How's everything?
Everything's good. And well, welcome to the podcast. First of all, it's a pleasure to have you on.
No, it's a pleasure to be on.
All right. And yeah, before we get started with your language background, the menu for today is going to be, mainly your experience with Spanish. We're going to talk about how many hours of input you've put in already, and especially that transition between input and output, again, because I feel like that's a super important topic that it doesn't get talked about enough to me. Yeah, and then, like I said, your language background, what the amount of time you're putting in every day with Spanish, because I think it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And so your journey overall.
Cool, right? Yeah, I'll introduce.
So go ahead. Why don't you tell us what background a little bit?
My name is Joe. I have a YouTube channel that's called Joe Sema, where I'm kind of putting my progress updates on my Spanish so far. And I started Spanish like a year and a half ago, it's about to be 2 years ago. And yeah, I feel like I like traveled at that time to Latin America, and I remember not being able to communicate with anyone.
Okay.
It was like very difficult to communicate and stuff.
Because you were, sorry to interrupt, you were starting from scratch when you
from scratch.
Okay.
Yeah, from very scratch. Like I didn't even have like high school lessons. I took French in high school, and I think maybe I took some random classes they gave us in like grade school in Spanish, but it was like very basic. So yeah, I started from complete scratch. I think at that time I was doing like Duolingo and like conjugation charts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember vividly like conjugating hablar and like going through the different conjugations and not being able to say like any of them right. Like I would put it in the translator would say something different. And then when I would say it, I was like, I'm like pronouncing it with like the English way to pronounce it and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, after that trip, which like was amazing, like just because like, yeah, people from Latin America are really nice. So even if you don't speak, they're like really helpful and stuff. But after that trip, I was like, okay, cool. I have to at least learn something, So I found out about Dreaming Spanish and kind of like comprehensible input during that time. And yeah, I kind of just took it from there. I started doing a bunch of hours of input. In the beginning, it was like really tough. I had to like really take my time with the hours. And then now I'm at the point where I'm doing like native content and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of leisurely listening to it. So it's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm kind of documenting like my speaking progress on my YouTube, because as I think we talked about a bit before that, there's not that much like guidance on like what to do after you have so much input, like what to do after getting all this speaking or like listening content. Like what do you now? Like how do you start actually speaking? And yeah, like I remember like hitting like after finishing like the roadmap and stuff, hitting like 1,500 hours. Yeah, it was like really tough to like do this transition into speaking, especially at that time. Because after I finished the roadmap, I had like 1,500 hours. I went back to Latin America to, test out my Spanish and just kind of just chill for vacations and stuff. And yeah, it was like it was tough in the beginning, like, but there was a big difference between like the beginning of the trip to the end and stuff. But yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Yeah, it's cool. I think input is pretty awesome so far.
Awesome. Yeah. I totally agree, because again, I believe in comprehensive input the most. Like, that's, you can get it done without it, in my eyes. But it's true that once you've been listening to the language, reading, or both for quite a while, like, I mean, not at the level you're at with Spanish, but close with German now. I'm feeling exactly the same way about making that transition, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you've been doing it for a while, like listening and reading, like I said, you can, how to put it to words, like, you can get a little cozy, or, just enjoying yourself, and which is amazing, don't get me wrong, but, getting into speaking, it's completely different animal, first of all, but it takes more active part from your part. It's good. Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I feel the same way. Like in Spanish, when I put it in a series, I'm like, oh, I can just chill. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to do too much.
Yep.
But then when speaking, it's like, yeah, you really have to. It's not like you have to think too much, but it's like you have to be more tactful with how you say things and stuff like that. It takes more effort, definitely more effort than when sitting down to listen to stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, I don't know if it's the right word, but it's like you have to sort of activate that, if that makes sense. I'm using like a simple word to explain it. Well, it doesn't work that way, but yeah, it's you can't just chill in your sofa and sit and watch.
Yeah, I recently watched the interview that you did with someone else who was kind of in that stage with Spanish. I think he was at 2,000 hours. He's kind of transitioning over.
Yep.
And I kind of started doing like what you guys were talking about, like talking to yourself and stuff. And I feel like, at least for me, it helped a bit. Like, I started just talking like in the car or whatever, or like when you're just doing random things. I feel like it helped me at least a little bit. Even getting used to saying things, like a lot of times maybe you might have like fear of saying something that doesn't make any sense. Like when you're talking to yourself, you're just like, okay, whatever.
Right.
I'll just say things and just like whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's really no pressure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, his name was Joe actually as well. So yeah,
for real. All the Joes.
Yeah. So things like that. That's what I mean. Because I was just thinking that when I started doing that with German, I talked about it, but like the first time, it's funny because in your head, obviously once you've been listening to the language for, I'm at around 1,300 hours. So let's put it, the language is already in my head. Obviously, none of it. I'm using simple words to try to explain it, right?
Yeah.
But so in my head, I'm imagining conversations, and it's so fluent. The words pop up. But then when you actually try to say it, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
It sounded way better in my head. And first of all, like pronunciation, that might depend on the language, but pronunciation, those sounds in German, for me, were like, wow, this is harder than I thought. But again, that's the first time, the second and the third, but I guess you get better. But especially, so I'm enjoying it way more than I thought, but especially like seeing that you're actually able to build sentences in the language and talk about things. Obviously, the first time you do it, you have to think about what you want to say more than you'd like to, I guess. But it's just part of the process. It's how you're getting started, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of like how my process went, like when I felt in the beginning and up until now. I think when I first started speaking, I think it was really hard. Like a lot of things sounded cool in my head, but then I couldn't say them. And yeah, after like some point, I was able to start like saying words correctly, and pronunciation was getting there, like in general. But there was still a lot of words that I couldn't say. And then I noticed that there's like a wall almost, I feel, that if you don't have enough input, like it's like kind of hard to break this wall. Like being able to express yourself really well, or like not really well, but decently. I feel like this is kind of like, I don't know, input kind of has like this gauge, or I don't know, I don't want to say a wall, but I want to say like some kind of range where like, okay, you're able to say this much, but unless you get more input, you won't be able to extend it, like to be able to say as much as this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like, I don't know, over like the amount of hours I've gotten since to 1,500 hours, I feel like it's kind of opened more of like, okay, I can see more things now and I can express myself a bit more. But that being said, it is really slow. I feel like, natives are like, they're really lucky because they have so many hours and so many like different experiences that they've gotten from life and stuff like that. So they know like what to grab from each part. They know how to get, or like how to express themselves in this way for like people to get it and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, well, that happens to everyone. Like I might think exactly the same thing for you with English or whatever.
Yeah.
Like of course. But you're saying that you're about to. It's going. I mean, you're close to 2 years since the moment you got started, right? And you're about like more than 2,000 hours, right?
Yeah, I'm closing in like around 3,000 hours now.
Very going like heavy at it, right?
Yeah, it's. I don't know. People, I don't want to make it like, oh, I'm just doing Spanish all day, because I don't think it's very realistic. But I know there's like time periods where I do more, and there's time periods where I do less. And a lot of the times, like, it's really easy to get input if you have podcasts in, or if you're just doing random things around the house, or driving, or if you're doing any long trip like that, you're just driving and stuff. It's really easy to just have a podcast running, and you can get lots of hours of input by doing that. Or what I notice is, like, I don't know, before I go to sleep, I usually just put on YouTube or something, and I don't know, you end up spending like what, 1-2 hours in your bed, like before sleeping anyway. So might as well spend it on language learning.
Right.
So I feel like that kind of helps a lot. Podcasts, especially, once you're able to listen to stuff without video, it's really good.
Right.
And like doing conversations, I think are also pretty good as well. Like when you're like chilling with friends and stuff. I noticed that at least when I was traveling and I had people speaking Spanish around me the whole time.
Okay.
Like most of the time I was listening, but that's still input. Like you're still listening. There's a lot of context, and it's really important to you. Like the conversations make a bigger impact than listening to a series on Netflix, because it's actually like people are talking to you directly, and like they expect you to respond. Like if you don't respond, or if you're not paying attention, then people will notice, right?
Yeah, it's real life, right? Yeah, exactly. And also the way they communicate. Like, I mean, you can sort of replicate that with YouTube videos. I mean, from the perspective of a content creator. I mean, but it's still not gonna be the same way that you communicate with your friends in your native language. I mean, right?
Yeah.
But and then I'm guessing when you like now you're listening to podcasts and all of that, like you said, but obviously at the beginning you started with not that much time, right? Because I did that with German last year. I started doing like 3 hours a day, and obviously I could do it because of the previous 300 hours that I've done, little by little. Again, this might depend on the language, of course, how similar it is to your native language or another one that you already speak. But obviously, at the beginning, you're not going to be able to be there for 2 hours. I mean, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, it's not possible. Like, you won't even pay attention. You'll just be listening and you'll fall asleep or something.
Right. So when you started from scratch, sorry to interrupt, you started with Dreaming Spanish videos right away?
Yeah, I started with Dreaming Spanish. I think there was like not really anything else I could even listen to. Like maybe I tried some stuff, some cartoons, but cartoons are not that easy as well. Like even kids' cartoons, like you still need like probably around there, like 200, 300 hours for you to start breaking into cartoons and stuff, maybe, depending on the language. But I was only doing Dreaming Spanish, and it's a lot of kind of guesswork. You're kind of in the beginning, just like, oh, okay, I guess I understand what's going on. I hope I understand what's going on.
Okay.
And at the beginning I was doing like 30 minutes? So 30 minutes, maybe an hour. Because at that point, you're just like, oh, I can't, like, it's not, either I'm not like listening to it properly, or I'm just getting bored.
Yeah, it's just noise, right? And
he's just noise.
Yeah, even like 30 minutes for an hour, it sounds like a lot to me, even like to get started. But yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No. I was just going to say that it's really crazy. Like, if you think about it, like all the languages in the world, they're all just kind of noise at the beginning. It's just noise. Like, maybe you hear some stuff from your native language or from the languages that you know. But for the most part, it's just, I don't know, it's like if I like knock on a piece of wood, it's like the same, like it's just noise. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's funny how that works because I've talked about it a couple of times here on the podcast recently. So I live in Krakow in Poland, um, and because I'm learning German now, to me it feels like there's German people everywhere in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an international city, so there's people from especially European countries, like a lot of people. But now I'm listening to German. I mean, not every day, but a lot, right?
Yeah, you notice it.
So it feels like where were the Germans before, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, they were out there, but my brain wasn't paying attention because it was noise to me.
Yeah. I feel like also like we block out sounds.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I've noticed that like over time, like you end up blocking out sounds that just don't make any sense, or that sounds from like other languages and stuff, and you really just don't notice it. Like at some point, you're like, oh, okay, I just heard something over there, but maybe not English, maybe it's
yeah. You pay attention for like a millisecond, and then
and then it's gone.
It didn't happen, right? But
go
ahead.
No, I was gonna say that as well. I noticed it like in French. I took French in high school. Like I was able to conjugate really well because it's just like once you learn it, it's just like an algorithm, right? You just like figure out how to conjugate the verb and stuff. Just add the endings. But hearing it was just like gibberish. Like I couldn't understand it all. And it's really funny now that like I've gone through like a bunch of Spanish. French is sounding more comprehensible now. It's like where was this before? Like before I couldn't even tell like the difference between the words. Like there was a lot of I feel like everything was just like a one long sound, you know?
Yeah, because you didn't listen to the actual language in high school, or I mean that was the same thing to me with English. I mean, because English is so popular, you might hear it at home listening to something, but like same approach to language learning. That's what I wanted to say. And so then you kept going with comprehensible input, dreaming Spanish, and later other resources. And was there a point in which you started thinking like, okay, I need to start communicating, or I'd like to start communicating, or you felt like the language was already in your head and you wanted to give it a try?
There came a point where I started realizing that I can understand people pretty well, like especially, I don't know, maybe you could relate as well. Like in the beginning, when you're first learning a language, like people's personalities are kind of, I don't know, it's kind of not as clear in the beginning.
Okay.
You can't tell like certain expressions, the way people say things, like, you know what I mean? And after some time, I started realizing, oh, wow, I can really understand this person, like the personality and all that. And I'd like to be able to, I don't know, respond back to them and stuff, like in Spanish. So yeah, I started speaking. And yeah, I feel like after so many hours, after 1,500 hours. Okay, one thing I would say is that the more hours you get, something that I noticed is that the clearer like natives become, and the clearer, like everything just becomes clear. It sounds clear. It's super obvious, like what they're trying to convey, or like what, I don't know, somebody in the series is trying to convey, which is cool. And that in turn helps you to speak or convey this similarly to like how they're doing it, like how they're expressing themselves. So I started feeling like, okay, yeah, I should probably start speaking. Like after 1,500 hours, I was thinking, okay, I should at least try like every so often, like to keep speaking. Although at that point, I didn't speak too much. I think I have like maybe 150 or so hours of speaking practice. Like 150 is like unofficial, you know, it's not, you know, 150 hours of speaking practice. But it's, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of like how does the bumps go in speaking. I feel like after so many hours, like it gets easier, but then you tap out at some point and you're like, okay, I can only go so far without getting more input. You know what I mean? You get a little bit better like that way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it does. Yeah. I mean, like, I always talk about it. Like, for me, it's like a feeling thing more than specific time frame. But it also depends on the language. Again, so many things that you talked about. You talked about cartoons. I was able to start with cartoons right away with Italian because of the similarity with Spanish. But I couldn't do that with German. Obviously. And after I don't remember exactly, but I was able to understand series in Italian pretty quickly as opposed to other languages like Polish or German, right? So it's more of a feeling thing. Like when I start imagining conversations in my head, I start to think like, okay, this is working. Like I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But like my quote unquote struggle a little bit because with English, it happened like, I mean, I was going to say a lot, but like more than 10 years ago. And I wasn't aware of all that we're talking about back then. So I had to go through it without knowing what was going on, right? So I remember talking to native speakers and non-native speakers, and it was hard at the beginning. But I've had so much input by watching the NBA mainly.
Yeah.
But it still took time for me to get to a point in which I feel comfortable speaking like I do now with English, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because it wasn't so clear at that point, later on when I started with other languages, it's like kind of I started reading Krashen's books and understanding comprehensible input and so on. So it's like the narrative made me kind of, if it makes sense, kind of forget that I had to go through that practice period with English. And then I started thinking, and it was funny because I'm from a small town in Spain, and I didn't get a lot of chances to use English.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a Nigerian guy who I would bump into at night sometimes in like one specific club, and I would start talking to him, right? So, and I remember that recently. I forgot that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the problem now with with German and Polish specifically, which are the ones that are farther away from my native Spanish, not like French, Italian, and Portuguese, is that I've been able to get to that point that we're talking about, that I understand. I mean, with Polish, I understand podcasts, series, native speakers, like everything they're talking about. But the speaking part is not there yet, right?
Yeah.
So recently I don't want to say I've changed my mind because I still think comprehensive input is the most important thing. But I used to believe that just input was going to get you there, right? But I think practice is actually necessary. Like you're not going to wake up one day and be able to communicate like figure, right? So that's the main idea. So I lost track of what I wanted to ask you.
I actually have a point on that. I feel like as well as speaking, I feel like you're also developing like your personality in that language as well, because like it's kind of unknown at the beginning, right?
Very good point.
I don't know, I noticed it for me at least, like I don't know, like you obviously you speak differently in your native language versus your language that you're studying and stuff.
Yeah.
And like without that much speaking practice, you're not able to, I don't know, express yourself in the way that you really want to, like using the language as a medium in the way that natives would use it. Like they use it maybe differently. I don't know if you also notice this as well, like your personality kind of changes a bit, or you have a different spin on like how you say things. And I feel like that speaking part is kind of you finding that personality, or kind of like guiding yourself. Like you've gotten all this input, now you're trying to guide yourself. Okay, like how do I want to say these things? How do I want to communicate myself? Because like at the end of the day, right, languages are just us communicating ourselves, and in that language, maybe this way, like these idioms that they have, was really necessary for them. So like they use it a lot versus like other languages, maybe in English or something. So kind of like developing like your personality in that language, speaking and being able to, I don't know, develop yourself like when you speak. I think definitely like I'm all on board with what you're saying. Like I feel like you need some practice. Also, I noticed that speaking with like friends and stuff like that, I feel like that is like really helpful. At least I feel like it's like a multiplier when it comes to speaking, because they don't really judge you, or at least you should find friends that don't judge you
Right.
when you speak. And they kind of help you a lot. You like talk with them, and you kind of develop your own style and stuff like that. I feel like that's the missing part. That's a big missing part.
Yep.
Like in English or whatever, I'm just like, whatever. Hey, what's up, bro? Like, what's good? And it's like, it feels normal for me. It's like I've said it a million times.
Yep.
Or maybe in Spanish or like whatever other language, I'm not used to it. Like saying like what's up, or like more of a colloquial way of saying things. So it's like a transition period, right?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I remember what I wanted to ask you. Well, first of all, I wanted to say that the frustration at times comes from, having had all that input and being able to sort of imagine or replicate conversations in your head. But then the moment you start communicating out loud, you can think of the words. You don't find the words that you want to use, something like that.
Yeah.
And in that specific moment, if you go straight from yes input to the real word, that's a huge leap, right?
It's huge, yeah.
That's why, I wanted to ask you, like, when you started communicating, or you felt like you wanted to, or you'd like to start communicating, what were the first things that you did? Like, did you start talking to yourself, or were talking about, or your friends? Because that's, back to your point, kind of the missing part of the missing piece. Like, how do you go from chilling and just enjoying comprehensive input to the real world? What are the stepping stones? So it's not as stressful to just talk to someone in the street who's not gonna have the patience to wait for you to say what you want to say, or speak a little slower if you need to, or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know, just like thinking about my experience, like after having 1,500 hours, I ended up traveling a bit in Mexico and stuff.
Okay.
And
1,500 hours, which took you like a year and a half or so, right?
Like year and a half. No, like year and a half, something like that.
Good. Yeah, just to give people a little time frame. So it's, what's possible.
So I went to Mexico and like other places as well in Latin America. But in the beginning of that trip, like it was like the very beginning, like I didn't speak at all. Like I didn't have that many hours speaking at all. And I remember doing like hello talk a bit, just like trying to talk in like the voice rooms, but it's so slow. Like I felt so slow as compared to natives, because they were just like firing things really fast and saying really witty jokes. And you're like, oh, I know what I want to say, but like I can't say it as fast as they can. So it doesn't come off.
Were they all Mexicans, or from the same place, or different countries as well?
From Mexico.
Okay. Like in that hello talk room, I mean.
In that hello talk, yeah. And
that was, sorry to interrupt you. It was like audio only, or?
Yeah, audio only.
Cool.
Yeah, and you can feel it. Like I felt like it was like such a dead stop in the conversation. Like I had to like wait. Everyone had to wait for me to speak. Even after saying it, like I would have to kind of rephrase what I would have to say, and then they can finally get it. And then they would like repeat it. They'd be like, "Oh, so you want to say this?" It's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Like I'm taking too much time or whatever. So that was a little bit before my trip. Then going on my trip, it was really frustrating. Like you were saying, you were able to understand people, but you're not able to respond back properly. So people are like, "Oh, okay, maybe he understands, maybe he doesn't." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, at the beginning of the trip, I felt that way, and I had to like take a step back. Like whenever I was meeting people, I would like ask a question, and then they would go on for like a minute or two. Then I would come in with another question, or like in like that kind of thing. It was more like they were doing more of the talking, and I was passively listening more. Which I feel like at the beginning is good. Like you guys can do that as like a beginner step and stuff.
Right.
But I don't know, like after some time, like things just got a little bit easier speaking. During that trip, I remember I had to do that a lot. Like I had to take my time, especially when it came to like people using slang and like talking really colloquially. It's just like you won't be able to pick it up, or they're just too fast with it, too like I don't know, witty and stuff. So it's hard to pick up what they're saying. But yeah, after that point, I took like a kind of a break in speaking until like this point, like like a month or two ago or something like that. When I started speaking again, I feel like it helped a lot, like especially when it came to understanding people. Like I can understand people more and like the personalities and stuff like that, and like I can understand like the context more. So you can
So you mean like
comment.
focusing on input again help you in this sense, right? Okay.
Yeah. And like you can kind of now understand the context more. Like when people say things, when there's jokes that are in like in the conversation, you can understand it more. Like as in as compared to like before, where you were kind of like, okay, you were kind of like a bystander, like listening to everyone. Now you're more like, okay, you can kind of make more comments, or you can say more things. So I do think, yeah, it's hard to say. Like I don't want to say like just get more input, because yeah, it might be a solution, and it might be like, I don't know, for kids or whatever at the very beginning, they get so much input, so it's just like as soon as they start speaking, they ramp up really fast. But as learners, I don't think we can do that. We need a little bit more of it's going to take like more of a gap for us to get to that point where we can match our listening and stuff.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, like in real time, it just came to me like with English. Like the first experience I had in which I had to use it on a daily basis was when I first came to Poland. That was like my last year of college. I came on, it's an exchange program here in Europe. So I came to a Polish university, and all the classes were in English. You know, I had a lot of international friends from many countries in Europe, especially, but other countries. So English was the language we used to communicate, right? And I remember that compared to a lot of my native, a lot of my, I forgot the word, a lot of my friends from Spain, excuse me.
Yeah.
I was able to communicate way better because of all the input that I had up to that point with the MBA especially. But it also took me a while to get used to communicating daily. So it was rougher at the beginning, then it got easier. But I was thinking about whether speaking in a group of non-natives could be helpful or not. Because obviously you're not getting the native input, so that might be confusing from that part. But when it comes to speaking, the stakes are not that high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people have the same issues that you have.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like your Highland Talk room that you just talked about, that everyone's speaking so fast and you're the only one thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I wonder how much that helped me. I'm guessing a lot, because that was like my first experience, and I'm trying to remember if there was anyone from the UK, but I can't remember. I think most people were like from France, Italy, Slovakia, Poland, of course. So that might be a thing. Like it just came to my mind like a real thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, what's the I don't know, I feel as well, like when you talk with non-natives, you feel a little bit more confident, or you feel like, okay, I don't have to worry too much. It's like, whatever, like they're not going to judge me or whatever. Or they're not they're going to judge me, but they're going to just understand me, like without having to explain myself too much. I don't know if it like helps a lot, like because you were saying it is non-native input. So like you'll kind of you'll obtain all the mannerisms and like the way they'll say things. So maybe it might not be super native. But yeah, I guess in the beginning, like it doesn't matter. It's just whatever. You can just like listen to them, and just like practice your speaking. Use it as like a jumping, or like a, what's it called? A jumping stone?
Stepping stone?
Stepping stone. That's stepping stone. To get to like natives, be able to speak with natives and stuff.
It's even more so like a confidence thing as well.
Yeah, I feel like that a lot actually.
Yeah,
like your confidence. I don't know what it is. Like when you just don't think. Like I notice in your native language, there's a lot of things you say wrong, like that you just don't care. You're just like, oh, whatever. True. It's like, okay, it doesn't really matter. Or you like just continue. Like you continue because you just have this confidence, this innate confidence that I don't need to like correct myself. Like I get it. Like people get it or whatever. So like developing that in another language, I think is pretty cool. It takes some time to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, it's almost as if you don't take it personal when it's your native language, but when it's another one, you do.
Yeah, exactly. They're
funny.
Yeah, like maybe you're from Spain, right?
Yep.
yeah, in Spanish, like from Spain, if you talk with like your friends from Spain, they probably speak incorrectly like all the time, and you're just like, oh, whatever. Like it's or you do the same thing. It doesn't really matter to you.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's, you're obviously if you're in the bar or it's just like some background noise or anything, and you don't understand what your friend said, you ask him again, like, what do you say? But when it's a foreign language that you're learning, right away you think it's your problem.
Yeah.
Like you're not fluent enough, or you didn't understand what he said.
Yeah,
she said, but yeah, it's like you take everything personal. It's funny how the mind works.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like it makes sense. I mean, in the beginning, you don't really understand much, so
yeah,
that's part of the reason. I think maybe that could be also another thing to note is that you notice it more like when you're like learning a language versus when you kind of grow up with it and stuff like that, and when you're like native and stuff. Like I don't know, like you notice it more. You notice this process more. So maybe you have more time to judge yourself. Whereas like in like your native language, you kind of just became fluent really fast. So you're like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't really have a problem anyway. So
yeah, and you weren't actually aware of it, I guess, when you went through that process.
You weren't aware of it as well.
Because the point you're at with Spanish, that might be the equivalent of I don't know, like a 1-year-old in terms of input. I mean, they're not aware of it yet. So
yeah.
But cool. And so later, you went to Mexico, you said that's like about the first time you started speaking.
Yeah.
Then you came back, focused on input again.
Yep.
And now, like last 1-2 months, as you said, you're starting to initiate the process of communicating again.
Yeah.
And are you you mentioned that you're trying that, speaking to yourself and things like that, but are you like actively I don't know, seeking friends, so like seeking people to use Spanish with, or what doing in the speaking part now?
Yeah, like right now sometimes I go on to Hello Talk or Tandem and try to do like conversations there. Which I like, there's a huge difference. I feel it like huge difference as compared to before.
Okay.
Like when I was on Hello Talk and stuff like that. Like I'm able to speak more now and kind of respond faster. But I really want to make friends, like actual friends in real life and stuff like that. I feel like those kinds of friendships make a bigger impact on the way you speak and like kind of your speaking and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like for example, like if I have friends in English, like, and I speak to them all the time, like getting into a Hello Talk room is like super easy, because I feel like that's like the high. I don't know what's higher than being able to speak with friends, super like relaxed and stuff like that. That's like probably the hardest thing, I guess, in terms of speaking, or speaking with natives that are like your friends. They use lots of slang. I think that's the pinnacle of speaking or whatever.
Right.
But if you can do that, then I feel like it's okay. Everything else is smooth sailing. So I haven't been doing too much like speaking over Hello Talk. But I do have a trip coming up to go back to Latin America. I'll probably go to Argentina, maybe Colombia for some time, because I had friends that I'd made in Colombia. They're still there, right? So like I have to go visit them. So yeah, gonna visit them and kind of just chill with them. And kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like those, like people go on an exchange program and stuff. I feel like this is the time where it's a perfect time to do this. Like you're able to go and kind of just chill, and similar to how kids that grow up outside of their like native country, they kind of just chill with like their friends and like kind of obtain the language. I feel like it's more of a natural way to do it. So
yeah, I do feel like you're ready at this point to.
Yeah, I feel like I'm ready. Like I'm not, obviously, definitely not at the point like where I can like speak super well or whatever, but I can at least make conversation. At least I can get like good input from them and make decent enough like friends. I feel like before it was a bit harder to be like super friends with someone, especially in Spanish. But as compared to now, I feel like it's more like, okay, I get it now. I get their jokes. I get why they say things. It's like funnier or whatever, stuff like that. So
Yeah, and you weren't participating as much before, so it's
Yeah, some people don't know
hard.
you. That's another thing. Like people don't know you as much when you don't participate as much because they're like, oh, okay, but what do you think? And it takes you like I don't know, a whole minute to explain yourself. Whereas like
Right.
now you're able to say more things and communicate. So I think that's what I'm doing right now. I would like to like speak more as I do some like traveling and stuff. Maybe do some YouTube videos as well with people. It would be cool. Um, but I think that's the main thing I am doing as well. There's like a platform called Worlds Across. So
Words across?
yeah, Worlds Across. It's a platform where they kind of like assign you a coach and you could do like one-on-one sessions with people, with like natives. It's similar to italki. But yeah, like I took like 1 or 2 classes on that. I'm not sure if I'll continue it because I kind of want more of that holistic kind of like natural experience or whatever, or like making friends. And plus, I don't know if you notice it, like I feel that when you're talking to like a tutor or when you're talking to someone like more professional, you speak more neutral, or when you want to speak like less colloquially, right?
True.
Whereas compared to when you speak to your friends, you're just like kind of more relaxed and just say whatever. So I want that kind of an experience, like more of that. I feel like that's harder for me to do as compared to doing like something more professionally or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, of course, I forgot to mention it, but I'll leave the link to your channel down below. So if people want to check your updates when it comes to your speaking part in Spanish, and when you upload new videos after or during your trip to Argentina and Colombia, that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many videos of I don't know. I watch like a lot of YouTube from like in Latin America. And I don't know, some of the videos are cool. They're like, I don't know, trying out different kinds of snacks and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like Mexican snacks. So it's cool. It'd be cool to do some types of those videos because all of it is new for me. Like I mean, I didn't grow up in this environment. So for me, like all of these snacks are like brand new. It's like, whoa.
Right.
So yeah, it'd be cool. Maybe people will enjoy it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. And yeah, before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask you about, so if you were to learn another language, would you do it the same way?
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely do it the same way. I don't think I would learn another I would learn it using grammar or anything. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I tried to use like Duolingo and like grammar charts, but like it just didn't stick with me. And yeah, I think with comprehensible input, especially since once you get like Spanish or one Romance language, it's easy to pick up the next.
Yep.
It would be cool to do like maybe French or Portuguese, something like that. Yeah, let's see, either that or like I had mentioned like a little bit before that, like my household is Albanian, so like everyone in like my family's Albanian. So like it's not like a heritage language, but it's like slowly over time I see it's getting weaker and weaker. So I would maybe like to spend a little bit more time on Albanian. Spend, I don't know, more time speaking it and practicing it a bit. So maybe I'll focus on that, especially since Albanian's kind of like a one-off. Like it's completely separated from every other language. It's kind of like Greek. Like there's no common ancestor. So yeah, it maybe would be cool to start back up with that, or I don't know, perfect it a little bit more.
Right, because I think it's not like those Croatian, Serbian. No, it's not.
No,
it's not a Slavic language, right?
No, it's so like the Indo-European tree. It's like the tree goes here, and then like it goes Slavic, then Romance, and like as a separate branch, it's like Albanian, and then another one is like Greek. Like Greek also has that thing, so it's like, yeah, it takes a long time to learn this.
Right. So I guess you've only listened to Albanian at home, right?
Yeah, like a lot of
you don't use it on a daily basis. Besides,
yeah, like I grew up like with my family's like speaking it all the time to me. My parents still speak to me in Albanian. Like I don't use it as much, and a lot of the vocab and all that I know like internally in my house. Like, you know what I mean? Like I hear it being thrown around between family and stuff like that. So maybe vocabulary about like, I don't know, the solar system and stuff like that won't be as common. It'll be harder for me to explain things like stuff about those topics and stuff. So yeah, I feel like yeah, it's funny. Like in that kind of environment, it's okay. But then outside of that, expanding out, it's a little bit harder. So it'll be cool. It'll be cool to like get a little bit better at that.
Sure. Yeah, because I'm thinking that you didn't have input about the solar system in Albania. Right?
Yeah,
That's the reason.
I've never heard of it. Like my parents don't even talk about it, or they just talk about like very basic things, or like things like in the house,
daily life,
foods, daily life, like stuff like that. So it's not as common to, I don't know, hear the planet Pluto in like a household setting.
Yeah. Cool. And any plans on the speaking part besides your trip to Argentina and Colombia? Like, are you gonna continue to do like, was it like talk and walk, no, walk and talk, or drive and like talking to yourself or things like that?
Maybe like right now I'm doing that. After my trip, I think what I'll do is I'll stay for some time. In Latin America, maybe just, I don't know, get really good friends and like be able to kind of absorb the culture and stuff. I feel like that's another really important thing, like the culture and like kind of cultural identity of the country. So I'll do that for some time, and then afterwards, I'm still thinking whether I want to be able to, like I want to continue like on Spanish. So I want to switch over to another language. If I kind of want to do some kind of like a maintenance mode where it's just like, okay, now I can just integrate it into my life. Like I have my phone and my computer in Spanish. Like it's fine. Like I'm able to do everything that I could do in English. So maybe I can do that, or, you know, maintain my friendships, or maybe keep doing like a podcast a day or something like that. Or I don't know, pick a telenovela that I really like and just watch one episode a day, and then just see what happens over so many years or stuff like that. That being said, I did forget to mention that my reading is not there yet. So like, I'm able to, like, speaking is getting there, but like my reading, I still have to like practice reading and stuff like that.
Because you've been listening mostly, right? Good.
Yeah, for the most part, listening. So probably I'll focus on reading. And yeah, just like kind of, I also want to document kind of this journey, like on my YouTube, and kind of show the raw, like actual raw experience of like what I'm experiencing through everything. Because yeah, there's like, I don't think there's as many videos like that. I feel like there's in the beginning, at least when I started doing Dreaming Spanish, I feel like yeah, there wasn't like that many videos of people showing their experience, or actually showing like the raw experience, like no cuts, no nothing, just turn the camera on and be like, okay, this is where I'm at. And even though it's taken me so many hours to get here, like this is just how it is. This is how language is. It's you can't expect by X amount of hours you'll get to this level. You know what I mean? Everyone's different.
Yeah, just being real about it. First of all.
Yeah.
And then you're showing that it takes. Well, I'd say it takes longer than most people think, but the good news is you don't have to go through grammar charts like you said and things like that. It's like you can actually enjoy every day, right?
Yeah.
That's the big difference to me. And that's the reason why I'm willing to stick with it when it comes to German or whatever the language, because I'm enjoying it, you know?
And
it's not that I need 2,000 hours or 1,500, whatever, of studying. I wouldn't get to 2, to be honest. So, you know.
Yeah. That's
the huge thing for me.
Yeah, like there's like a part of it that's almost like your personal identity as well. Like it's your, I don't know, getting that input and taking time to actually do that. It kind of develops your identity and stuff like that in that language. And I don't know if you can get that through grammar and stuff like that. I don't know if it's possible. Like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a person that through grammar and through just studying alone was able to reach that to like a really good level. Because I've always heard people say like, okay, maybe they did it in the beginning, but then they started hanging out with friends and getting that cultural experience that's like really important. Otherwise, like you won't be able to understand a lot of things.
You know, for me, it might make sense to do it the other way around, like start with input and then some grammar, or a little bit of grammar to kind of understand how the language works if it's a completely different language.
Mhm.
I personally don't do it because I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
Like, not even for 30 minutes overall.
Yeah.
So, but like I'm open to the possibility of being helpful if it's afterwards, first of all, or just the little things to understand. Like if it's Japanese or a language that it's like subject, object, verb, or
Mhm.
the other way around. Just those little things that help input be more comprehensive, more than trying to consciously learn the language, right?
Yeah.
But still, I've seen that this way works for me as well. I mean, like just input and enjoying it. I'm sorry. And so unless I start or I try to learn a language that is completely different, I might be lost, or there might not be as many resources available. I probably wouldn't start with that language if that was the case. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to say is that unless it's a scenario like that one, I'm gonna stick to this plan, like comprehensive input, and then these activities that we've been talking about, like the stepping stones, talking to yourself, language partners, etc. Then real life friends and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen it work with English, I've seen it work with other languages, and
yeah, I feel like it's just easier. I feel,
and I love it.
It's easier.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's just easier in general. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would have been able to done this many hours, like in the same amount of hours, but using grammar. Like, I don't know if it's possible like this. It would be like too much. Yeah. I would feel like I would know so much of the language, and then when it comes to speaking, it would be really hard. Yeah, it's like really, it's just so much easier. Although I will say it takes a long time. Like, I would say doing comprehensible input, I don't think it's for everyone. Like, there's a lot of people that kind of value more of their time and would rather spend it on other things, which is another reason why I'm like debating on whether I should start on another new language, because I'm not sure if I want to put that huge time investment. Maybe another Romance language, like you said, like maybe something easier. So it's like, okay, in half the time I could do it. So I don't really have to try. It's just kind of maybe while I'm washing the dishes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that. It's not that easy. It's easy, but like it's not that easy at the same time. There's like a big time commitment as well.
Yeah. That's the main reason why I shy away from languages like Japanese. I'm curious on one side, but I know it's going to take me way longer than French or Portuguese or Italian did, right? So it's just, yeah.
But even that being said, Polish and German, it's like, that's still another step. Like, that's closer to, you're pushing like closer to that. So
it's still hard enough.
Still impressive. Yeah.
Romance languages. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right. So, any final message for people trying to learn Spanish or any language for that matter, but especially Spanish?
Yeah.
That's what
I would say probably input has made the biggest, at least, impact on my language journey. I don't think I tried a bunch of stuff before, grammar, like other different kinds of apps, but I don't know, nothing has matched like the point you can get to with input, especially because you don't even have to think. Like, when you speak to natives, you're kind of just like, you hear it and you're able to understand things, which I noticed that was also kind of my benchmark when I started Spanish. I was like, okay, I know that in Albanian, I hear stuff and I just kind of understand it. So it should be kind of like that in another language, or like when I hear a Spanish or when I hear something else. So I should kind of feel the same way, or like even in English, I just hear things and I get it. So I should feel that kind of same benchmark.
There's no lag, right?
There's no lag, yeah. That non-lag, like, it's really, I don't know if it's possible to get it outside of just input with like grammar and stuff. So any advices, I would say probably just continue with input. Don't worry about it too much. Just listen to like a little bit each day. And if you don't notice it, after some point, you'll be like, oh, okay, I can kind of understand a lot of things. And then at some point, you'll be like, oh, I can now say a lot of things. Even though, that transition between listening and speaking, it's a little bit, it's like a bit rough. But yeah, like I don't think no one should worry about not being able to communicate if they use comprehensible input as their main learning source.
Yeah, I think it's just the hardest part probably. And also because the gap between how much you can understand and how much you can say at that point is probably the highest is ever going to be.
Yeah.
So I understand the frustration, right? And we're adults, so we want to be able to communicate right away.
Yeah.
So that's probably why, but still, it's going to happen. You just, you need the same way you need input, you need output practice, right?
You practice and, I don't know, practice with people, practice, then don't shy away from getting more practice.
And find friends who don't judge you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one thing I think I try to do is when I'm speaking with friends or and all that, I try to just ignore everything and just be like, okay, blank mind, whatever comes out, just comes out. Pretend like I'm talking to them as a friend, like not even worrying about language. I'm just trying to communicate my message to them and kind of just go like, okay, I don't know anything. Just like, I'm just going to say whatever I want to say. I feel like that helps a lot.
Yeah, it's a sort of meditation in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, just not thinking. Just like, let everything flow.
Awesome. I like that. All right. So, well, it's been a pleasure, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thanks for bringing me on the podcast. Yeah, I really like the podcast. I've seen a couple of the other videos as well. So I'm excited to see what more has to come.
Happy to hear that. And yeah, of course, like I said, I'll leave the link to your channel. I'll also leave the link to the website you mentioned. I forgot the name. Words Across?
Yeah. There's like Words Across is great. So leave the links there and stuff like that.
And once again, thank you so much. And I'll see you soon.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Alvaro. See you.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching this interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful for you. And if you want to know more about language learning, language acquisition, like, what's the best way to learn a language, ideas for language learning, the best resources at different levels. Here, you can find the whole playlist with all the interviews I've done so far with different researchers, teachers, polyglots, and so on. And finally, right here, you smash this guy right in the face to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.